All right, guys. Good afternoon. I just wrote these opening remarks about 48 seconds ago, and I mean that. Like, I had a certain tone and way I wanted to come in here today, but the bottom line is I'm super excited. It's homecoming week, and we get to play another game. We just won a game on the road in unbelievable fashion, and our kids show great resiliency. The anticipation for me in my first homecoming, my mom coming to the game, family members, the importance to our alumni base, the former players. I think there's a great buzz out there right now, and just super excited to coach this football team. We get to practice today, and we get to go improve on the things that we need to in order for us to reach our full potential. I'll open it up kind of with starting out, East Tennessee State, right? Obviously, we want to reflect on that game probably a bunch. But I want to first say, to Coach Lamb, they played an outstanding football game. And I think from ability standpoint, if there was any overlooking or poor illustration of how this was going to go throughout the week, I think we all got, put in check because that quarterback could run, the running backs could all run, the receivers, showed some ability. The tight end, what a player, D2 transfer portal guy. And then I think this is just it's a little bit of signs to come, guys. It's just in September, sometimes it's going to be hard to predict. Okay, it's going to be really hard to predict these outcomes and who people are. They had 25 transfers. That tight end was much better than I gave him credit for. And I knew that from the time that the warm-up started. And they made some really big plays. We hurt ourselves in the first couple of drives on some things that we'll talk about. Starting one, we tip a ball up in the air. How often have we seen us just pick it off? Okay, there's a PI in there, and then there's a quarterback scramble on 2nd and 9 that extends the drive, and then here we go. And so, from looking at the special team standpoint, I thought they played to our standard again. And they continue to get better and better. They're making an impact. Offensively, when we didn't hurt ourselves, they didn't stop us once. Okay, and that's how I feel about it. And quite frankly, if I was going to be critical of anything on offense, it was just a couple second down calls that maybe we could have ran it and really just, kind of put the fire out a little bit for our defense. And that is by no means calling out Jake Landry and the offensive staff. Okay, that would be the one thing I would say. Defensively, right now, we've got to make some adjustments quicker. We've got to put the fire out ASAP. Okay, and what I mean by that is we can bend, but we just can't break. And so what I'm asking those guys to do is just, we got to be a little harder, a little firmer early in games and force field goals, and then we can just settle in the game and we'll be just fine because I believe in this staff and I believe in our players. The bottom line is this. Like I had mentioned, September, and to win one ugly, okay, is critical, and so often before it's led to some great things. And all we're focused on right now is Towson and going 1-0 this week. But to win a difficult game on the road, there's not enough said about that part of it. Okay, the adversity that we had to overcome, not once, but twice. If I was a fan, I would have turned the game off 3 times and came back to it. All right, and the bottom line is Bison Pride showed up, the resiliency showed up, and we won. And a W is a W, especially in September, especially in non-conference games because there's some unknowns. That East Tennessee State team is well coached. I won't put a limitation on how many games they win this year. I'd love to hear everybody else's predictions on it. I think they've got some real ability, and if they can stay healthy, they played well, and they're coached, they've done a really good job, and I really appreciated our conversation before the game. That was the moment that I felt like, okay, these guys are on the right track, and this guy's thinking right. With that, I'll open up for questions, but I do want to touch on Towson here during this press conference.
Coach, you had, Ozig once again go out there and kick a booming field goal. How important is it that you have special teams as a weapon with the onside kick and deep field goals now?
It was kind of a swirling win for the guys that were there. It was interesting because I almost got into an argument with Nick Gazer before the game. Are you sure? And they had the charts, and they were confident. And therefore, Eli, the line early in the game, I would have sent them out there from the 42, where we punted from the second time. I would have sent them if the wind was still up. It calmed down a little bit. All right, so Eli right now, from that distance, 54, 55, guys, I'm pretty darn confident. I really am. If all things are neutral, okay? And he's swinging really good. Outside of, I'm not even going to talk about it, outside of one kick, right, in the last 3 weeks, he is swinging really good, and he's earned his teammates' respect, and he's earned my trust. It's a guy I'm excited, but he's just simply doing his job. His job is to put the foot on the ball as good as he can, and he's doing that.
How important are those touchbacks, especially at the FCS level? I don't know if you see it very often like that.
You know what's interesting? Sometimes I do, and I have, when I was coordinating special teams, I have felt like kicking it to the 2 or 3 is best because we're going to tackle it inside the 20. You know, when you really feel good about your scheme and the location of the kick, you know, so the fact that we might, if he stays consistent for 2 more weeks, I might pull 1 or 2 more minutes off of working on kickoff and delegate that to punt or delegate it somewhere else that needs work. I mean, he is just really kicking the ball well. Darius Givens, the inside guys are, you know, the 4, 5, and 6 position, which is Gully, Nathaniel Stalling, and Alta Peter are really doing a good job, and I like where our contained players are at too. That unit, Joe's done a really good job with that unit.
Defensively, do you think it's a sort of a structured thing as far as box counts? Do you think you need to put the players in better positions to succeed, or do players in those positions need to make the plays?
It's all 5 right now, and that's what we're grappling with. Is it players? There's not enough evidence. If I went by position and I looked at all the cut-ups, there's not enough evidence to say, man, that guy is just not able to get the job done. He has and hasn't. Okay, there's miscommunication that are leading to misfits. Not acceptable. We're getting it addressed right now, and I can't wait to practice today. Okay, miscommunications that are leading to misfits. And then there's some poor fundamentals and technique. And I don't know, I can recall coming in here promising we're going to be better fundamentally and technique-wise. And, you know, all week long, and I will say this. I don't think it's fair to talk about the defensive linemen, okay, because I don't know how many shots they had to get off of a tackle or off of a block and then make a tackle. I want to see us have those opportunities more often. We were on the move a little bit, you know, whether it was twist games and or moving. And so somewhere in there, we've got to, you know, more base defense with some of this. And then players feeling really comfortable and playing fast through the technique and fundamentals. But to answer the question right now, or I shouldn't say that. Last game, it was all 4 or 5 of those points you made. And a little bit of everything. A little bit of everything. Okay, so that's, I mean, I've been through that damn tape on defense 3 times. And I'll probably be over on that side of the ball a little bit more this week and just trying to bring some spirit and energy and enthusiasm and make sure we're working to the standard.
You mentioned getting the defense to the point where they, you know, bend and don't break. How is that something that you instill? Like that sounds like something that would be difficult to kind of instill into a team, especially at this point in the season. How do you get the guys to that point?
Well, in the past, it's been a guy showing up and making a play. It's grabbing Matt Grotzik by the face mask, saying, Matt, I need you right now. And then he goes out there and he makes a play. So we have to have a little bit of that, some playmaking, then some timely execution of a really good play call. Okay, you know, in Grant's defense, it's just 3 or 4 times they had the better call, the much better call. And if I was dialing up the offensive play, that's what I would have want for that play call. And so, you know, we've got to put the fire out. We got to make a bad situation decent. Okay, we got to make good situations great, and then we got to make the uncommon play, you know, all of a sudden be extraordinary at some point. We've got to make a play. You know, we could argue, was it a PI or this or that or the other thing on the long pass. We got to get the ball out of the receiver's hands. And that's just how I feel. And the good news is I'm not sharing anything in public right now that we ain't talked about last night. Okay, and that hasn't been covered in the staff room. But, hey, offensively, too, we got some room for improvement.
The cause for miscommunication, because you mentioned that at Colorado as well. What would you say on that?
Well, Colorado was probably a noise factor. At times, the speed they were playing at. For us, I think it was exactly this. Hey, we're doing this. Like, we've got to communicate to each other. And that takes eyes and mouth or nonverbals being confirmed. And that's what's got to happen.
So it's not personnel on defense by any means. That's what you're saying too. Are younger players going to get a shot on defense?
I'd like to. I'd like to stay true. I'd like for all of our coaches that when we talk on Fridays and I say, okay, Jeff, who's getting rotated in this week as the camera guy? And you say, hey, in the second quarter, da-da-da-da-da. We're going to stay true to our rotations. We got to play more guys. We've got some real ability and some options, right? And to give guys opportunities to show us they can do it. And I like our depth. You guys have heard me talk about the backup linebackers and so forth. And, you know, that's where it comes down to practice. You know, it's got my full attention right now. It's got the full attention of the staff for sure because I asked, you know, those similar type questions. Okay, what are our answers? You know, where do we go from here? Because we do have some options at some spots. Other spots, we don't have a whole pile of guys to look at.
Now that you've had 72 hours or whatever to reflect, where does the last 5 minutes of that game rank for you as far as just what you've seen in your time here, really anyway?
Gosh, I don't even know. Like, I think a 3rd and 23 with Carson Wentz against Northern Iowa, that's the worst situation I can ever remember being in. With our backup or our 3rd string center in, nobody talks about that. Okay, and then like this guy just gets a ball out to Vra, toe tap, and then we throw one to the other sideline, and here we go, right? Like you got some life if you get the first down. But all reality, when we didn't score, and we had to go for 6, but when we didn't score when Cole had to go in the game, like that, it started getting pretty sticky. You know, if we score there, I think we're in just any normal tight kind of game that you have a real chance to pull out with 2 timeouts, counting the 2-minute, you got 3. It's up there. It's up there from the standpoint of just how many difficult situations we just kept overcoming. I mean, I don't know if it's perfect, but the fact that we held on to our timeouts and then they get an offensive holding call when we were going to call a timeout, that could have been a huge, huge deal. You know, and so from the standpoint of clock management kind of going right or getting lucky on that, and then, you know, getting the onside, John Gore's recovering, and he needs to catch the damn ball. And guys, somebody mentioned it, and I I'm not necessarily listening, but I hear everything. If Braylon's out, John Gore's is our punt returner right now. We don't have an opportunity to speed up somebody to get 1,000 reps back there. Sam Young would be next. It ranks up there. I just wish, like, in the moment of getting the onside, you know, the only thing that would have made it better is that we had no timeouts left. I mean, with 2 timeouts left in a minute 28 or whatever it was, I felt pretty good about it.
Besides tailback run game, you know, wanting it to be better, over I think 6 yards of carry last week between the 3. Kind of what was your?
Between the 3 or all 3 were at 6.
I'm not sure. At least 2 of those.
Yeah, at halftime I think all 3 were, and so I guess they're getting the message they want to compete. You know, and at one point during the game, I just said, guys, we're going back to the old school. When I was coaching backs, the guys that break tackles, make it, take it. You stay on the field. Guys that don't, we'll exchange you and let the next guy go. And so they're really competing hard, and it's fun to watch them practice right now. I think they know it, and I really appreciate TK Marshall. He's owning his role in the pass game and pass protection, and so those guys, it was pretty good. I'll tell you what, the O-line with that blitz, you know, the fronts, the multiple fronts, we played pretty good up front.
Can you give a comment on Craig Bohl going to the Hall of Fame this weekend?
Yeah, that's a good question. I appreciate you asking that. I really do. I mean, that's what this is all about, right? Like, you know, I don't know if a statue or anything like that. I don't know who makes those calls or whatever. But Coach he laid down an unbelievable foundation. You know, I can imagine, you know, his Monday night talk after, you know, kind of our performance. I think back to all the lessons I got. And he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame just based on rolling his sleeves up and what he had to do from 2003, 4, and 5 to get this thing in position to where we're Division I. I love the fact that he was just, even at the end, he was continuing to learn and grow and adjust and change. And, you know, I love the man. He means a lot to me, and I'm so happy that his family's going to be here with him outside of Aaron. And it'll be a heck of a day.
What has he meant to you personally?
Yeah, you know, it's funny because there was a time, you know, I didn't know my father until probably I was 18, really. You know, that's when I got to be around him when I was a college football player. And when I got here, you know, my dad passed in my time when I was here. Coach Bohl gets the private plane set up. Thank God for team makers. And I didn't know that the whole staff showed up. You know, Coach had really moved into it was a situation where, you know, obviously you respect him. God, this guy coached at Nebraska. He's my boss. But then all of a sudden, he became a little bit of a father figure for me. Probably when I needed it most, you know, in my late 20s, early 30s. And I can remember, I always think about Jill when I think about Coach Bohl, because when he gave me a raise up to $56,000 from 18 or something, he just said, hey, it's time for you to really, let's settle in. Maybe you can find a nice girl. Coach, actually, maybe I did. And he said, well, when you cook spaghetti, make sure it's red wine. You know, when you cook a steak. And like, he was that kind of guy for me. Those little moments are what this football thing is all about, though, to me.
For you personally, is there any extra pressure for the performance on Saturday, knowing
No,
that he's
there's
going to be in the
enough
dome?
pressure because of the standards that we've set in this room. Because of, you know, the detail that we want to play in. we're trying to capture perfection, and somewhere along the line, capture excellence. And our best 4 quarters is still out there, and that's the bottom line with all these questions. We have not played 4 quarters of football yet. And we will continue to chase that, and our only objective is to reach our full potential this year and to go 1-0 each week by 1 point.
Which Towson quarterback are you expecting?
Well, the one's hurt. So right now we got to count on the backup playing, but I'm eager to get to his press conference and see if he says anything about who's healthy. Seven's been really dinged up with the non-throwing shoulder. And what's the other number? Number 9. Yeah. Both have played, last week, the kid played against Villanova, was 20 of 36, 55%, 233 yards, 1 TD. I don't have a good answer for that, Jeff. I think Seven's slightly the better runner, but it's not one of those deals. I don't think they're quite the athlete that we had last week, but they're much more proficient in the pass game, in the drop back stuff.
Coach, you guys are going up against a tight end, another one that's big, he's 6'6". How are you guys preparing your defense to handle that?
He's really good. It's interesting. That's a good question, and I could run with it in a million directions. We've been talking about for 2 weeks, right, like the screen game and the RPOs and the ball being out quick, and that's why the pass rush don't get home. Okay, so when a team has 15, pass attempts, okay, and we're giving up 270-some yards rushing, the D-line coach is over there talking about stopping the run, okay, and they very little drop-back pass, even in that last game, right? These guys are much more similar to a conventional, they deploy their concepts and their, progression-based, 4 verticals. And so there should be some opportunities for our pass rush to be judged and to be evaluated this week, and some opportunity for explosive plays that way. And then the tight end is operating in the middle of the field, right? And they use him in protection with checkdowns very well. They use him in the screen game. He's part of the RPO game, and he's part of the run game. This guy I respect a ton. He's a good football player.
Tim, have you decided on Jackson Williams of lifting the red shirt yet?
Yeah, he's going to go. We're going to play him. We're going to play him out.
To see what he's done in the kick return game and then have that reception, was that not necessarily the over the top, but like, okay, we got to play this guy?
I just, kind of more coming back to whenever I think maybe Jeff or, Mike asked a question about any freshman or something, he was doing those kind of things, like showing those flashes. The fact that he's now had 2 big kick returns and he's hit his spots pretty good and he's taking care of the football gives me a lot of confidence moving forward. But then, quite frankly, again, here's another guy getting an opportunity because someone goes down. Raj and Braylon being on the shelf, we just can't waste these opportunities. The time is right now. To project 3-4 years down the road and not know the future is just really difficult. And so we're going to play him because he provides a punch.
Injuries, Braylon and Raja.
Braylon right now today would be questionable. I think, he's got an outside shot. He ran yesterday a little bit, jogged. He's getting stronger every day. Braylon for sure, I would be shocked if he doesn't play next week. Raj, on the other hand, is going to kind of be, and I want you guys to work with me on this, not against me or thinking I'm trick-dicking anybody here, but I just think he's going to be a week-to-week call from here on out. We have a target for him, with whether that's next week or the following week, and then we're going to have to manage some things. And then he's in an interesting situation because he could potentially redshirt with the 4-game rule in the playoffs. Crumby's, should be up and running at the end of the week to be cleared for practice the first time. That means he won't be game ready, and so we hope to have him back next week.
Tyler Terhart left the game. What about
Tyler Terhart, that's just I got to wait to get the final on some imaging. But if that AC separation if it's sliding laterally, then that goes to surgery, and it'd be tough to get him back. But that's one area of the body that you potentially could do some things with some medicine.
Coach Crutch and just what this, you expected this probably from Bryce, but for Osterman to make a play in that game, obviously what you got from Gores, Jackson Williams, this is a group, no Raja, no Braylon, that you're getting down the depth chart and you're not losing the productivity.
Talk about some real positives, right? Things to celebrate, things to be excited about. I know Coach Crutchley appreciates, the new staff and stuff like that. But I'm sure I'm a lot different for Crutch than Matt is. I probably have been a little bit more demanding from an offensive standpoint. Coach Entz is a defensive guy, and I'll tell you what, he's answered the bell. And then I would say this, I would give a lot of credit to Craig Bohl bringing double reps to this program, because without double reps, those guys simply can't go out there and do that. we would have just had to play those guys until their tongues fell out. But I was like, play these guys. They've got some repetition. They know our 2-minute stuff. We've got 1 million reps. And so it's just really good and really cool to see guys capitalize on their opportunity. And Coach Crutchley obviously did a good job of having their ear all week, making sure they're locked in. And so I have a great deal of appreciation for the job that Steve Crutchley's doing right now.
Is Silas close?
Yeah, he's close, but again, the first thing that comes to mind to me is how do these guys, these free agents, bounce from team to team to team in the NFL, right? Because it takes what it takes in order to learn the foundation of a system. I don't think he was at Colorado State long enough, or that their stuff is similar to ours enough where there'd be any carryover. So he's learning a complete offense. He's flashed from an athletic standpoint. His size, he's caught our eye maybe on some special teams here. And so, but for him to move in like to the number 2 or number 3 role would be difficult. But he's close. You know, at one point in that game, we had Silas Evans, Cade Osterman, Johnny Gores, and Jackson Williams on the field. And we won.
Breath of fresh air to be preparing for a more traditional spread offense that Towson kind of brings to the table, rather than having to deal with the RPOs and screens that you've had to deal with for the past couple of weeks.
No, they both have their challenges. They're both equal challenges. They have plenty of RPOs. I'm just saying when they throw the ball, it kind of looks more like our stuff. I mentioned that to the defense. It's going to be kind of camp preparation. They do a lot of similar things. I like the fact that potentially our pass rush in the crowd could actually have an impact. It's really hard to get pass rush. I know we see the ball come out as a pass, but everything prior to that is run. And so when guys get low pads, they got to play with their hands. Their eyes are on their keys. It's hard to get a rush or to deflect the ball for that matter. And so I'm excited to see if, again, can we truly evaluate that part? It's an interesting stage of the season. We're still in what I would call the preseason, but Colorado and then Tennessee, a dominating performance, and then this one that wasn't up to par on defense, and then at times not clean enough on offense. And I'll be honest, Cam played an unbelievable game. What a warrior. But there's 2 or 3 plays that he would take back right now because we made bad situations worse. I mean, that's the only reason we got the holding call, right? We got the 1 sack. He needs to get the ball out of his hands. And so everybody right now in this room yesterday, based on yesterday and how that went, agrees it's time to start improving at a faster rate and do it with a great sense of urgency.
Do you guys have to do more for Cole Payton or more with Cole Payton to get where you want to go? I understand.
No, because the offense is really pretty productive right now. I mean, we got a weapon there. I'd like to see us use them as much as possible, but we just talked about 2-back run game or one, tailback run was pretty good. The throw game was pretty good, right? Maybe he's a spark plug in some games, or maybe he's the initiator and he's part of the openers. I think we still have that in our back pocket where the package could be used in the openers. And it's just right now Cam's playing at an elite level. And I'm not talking about the yards or the throwing. He's managing this offense at a first-class rate. And so right now I'm okay. But
if that's the case, look for maybe some other ways to use them on teams or things of that nature?
potentially. Yep.
Penalties on Saturday, was that a reflection of the game, or is that something you're concerned about?
No, I'm a little bit concerned, and then I'd also throw the drop or 2 in there. We fumbled the ball and got it back. Yeah, we just need to be cleaner, right? We were pretty clean going into this whole thing. I even did a comparison penalties because I was trying to figure out Towson a little bit, and they've got 23 penalties for X amount. We've got 22 penalties. Well, going into that game, I mean, we're sitting there through 2 games, underneath 5 per, and now it is what it is. We got to be much cleaner. The alignment thing is mind-boggling to me. We're not going to do those things. We got to get on the ball at receiver, and that was one of our better players that made that mistake. And so I think what happens in games like that is all of a sudden it's a game and we're not understanding that there's still 38 minutes to play. There's still 42 minutes to play. We just have to go play. And we start to try to do too much with the ball or this, that, or the other thing. And then some of the holding stuff for how we're teaching our fundamentals, that shouldn't happen. We should be moving our feet, closing out run blocks with our legs, eliminating separation. So we've got to eliminate some of and both offensively and defensively, I think this is a fundamental issue for us right now. We're reaching too often rather than running. Don't reach, run in everything that we do when it comes to contact.
realignment wheel is turning again out there in the landscape. Dakota State's name, for what it's worth, is being tossed around again as a potential for some of these conferences, including the Mountain West, where you were for a long time. As a head coach at NDSU, what's your view of
Yeah,
that?
you know,
What are your thoughts?
for maybe a moment in time, once per week, I'd say that's kind of exciting. But like, we're just so entrenched in what we got going on. You know what, I'll say this. Every week I watch my my peer now, Jake Dickert. I watch his press conference because he's animated and he just speaks to what's on his mind. And he can't help himself but to be out there asking for more, you know, and talking about the realignment stuff. So I don't want to go down that rabbit hole mentally right now when I have to maintain being the best leader I can for this program. And I'm excited about that. But once a week, gosh, maybe it could happen, you know, or something like that. And we'll see. I mean, we've got to see how it all unfolds. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it.